The mansion stood like a monument to power and wealth, its towering walls shimmering under the morning sun, but behind those glass windows, a storm was quietly brewing. In a single, heartbreaking moment, the sound of ripping fabric shattered the silence. The maid's uniform had been torn, not by accident, but by the reckless cruelty of the millionaire's only son. What seemed like a petty humiliation at first soon spiraled into something much deeper, touching the core of dignity, justice, and compassion. And no one, not even the arrogant son, could have imagined the way his father would respond, a reaction that left everyone in the house fighting back tears. Backhand index pointing right. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and the power of second chances, then please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to Kidness Corner, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that humanity still matters. And don't forget to comment with your thoughts. We love reading your stories too. The story begins with Maria, a 22-year-old maid who had been working in the wealthy Collins estate for nearly a year. She came from nothing, raised in a small village where her family struggled to afford even the basics. Her father had passed away when she was a child, leaving her mother to raise 4 children on her own. Maria, being the eldest, carried the weight of responsibility on her fragile shoulders. She had dreamed of becoming a teacher, but life didn't give her that chance. Instead, she became a maid, scrubbing floors and ironing clothes to send money home so her younger siblings could stay in school. Every time she put on that simple gray and white uniform, she reminded herself that it wasn't just fabric. It was her armor, her hope, her way of surviving. In the Collins mansion, wealth oozed from every corner. Marble floors gleamed, chandeliers sparkled, and cars worth more than her entire village lined the driveway. But not all that glitters is gold. Maria often faced sneers from guests who looked past her as if she were invisible. She never complained. She never raised her voice. She just worked with quiet dignity, her soft eyes carrying the story of her struggles. But one afternoon, everything changed. Ethan Collins, the millionaire's 24-year-old son, was known for his arrogance. Spoiled since birth, he had never worked a day in his life. Money had shielded him from consequences, and he wore his entitlement like a crown. While his father built the empire with grit and sacrifice, Ethan believed the world owed him admiration. That day, in front of his wealthy friends, Ethan decided to use Maria as the target of his cruelty. As she carried a tray of drinks into the living room, he mocked her accent, laughed at the simplicity of her clothes, and when she tried to leave quietly, he tugged at her uniform. With a sharp pull, the fabric tore at the shoulder, leaving Maria frozen in humiliation. Laughter filled the room, laughter that cut deeper than knives. For Maria, it wasn't just a uniform. It was her pride, her dignity, the very symbol of her hard work. Tears welled in her eyes, but she bit them back, refusing to give Ethan the satisfaction of seeing her break. She set down the tray and hurried out of the room, her heart pounding, her soul burning with silent shame. Upstairs, in the privacy of her small quarters, she sank to the floor and wept. She thought of her siblings waiting for the money she sent home, of her mother who prayed every night for her safety, and she wondered if this job, this humiliation, was worth it. What Maria didn't know was that someone else had witnessed everything. Mr. Richard Collins, Ethan's father, had been standing quietly in the hallway, out of sight. He had heard the laughter, seen his son's cruelty, and felt the sting of disappointment pierce his heart. Richard Collins was a man who had built his empire from the ground up. Born in poverty, he knew the taste of hunger, the sting of humiliation, the long nights of labor. He had promised himself that his son would never know those struggles, but now, staring at the spoiled young man he had raised, he wondered if he had given Ethan too much and taught him too little. That evening, Richard called for a family gathering in the great hall. The chandeliers glowed above, casting golden light on polished wood and nervous faces. Ethan walked in, smirking, still believing he was untouchable. Maria, hesitant and trembling, was asked to stand beside Richard. The room fell silent. And then, with a voice heavy with emotion, Richard Collins spoke words no one expected. He told the story of his own childhood, how his mother worked as a maid for rich families, how he often hid his torn shoes behind bushes so no one would laugh, how he had faced insults but never let them break him. Then he turned to Ethan, his eyes glistening with both pain and anger. "When you ripped her uniform," he said, his voice shaking, "you didn't just tear fabric. You tore through the dignity of a young woman who works harder in a single day than you have in your entire life. You mocked her, but in truth, you mocked everything I built, everything I fought for. You have shamed yourself, and you have shamed me." The hall was silent. Ethan's smirk faded, replaced by a pale, uneasy expression. Richard did the unthinkable next. He knelt before Maria, right there on the polished floor, and apologized. Tears streamed down Maria's face as the millionaire's father held her hand and said, "Forgive my son. Forgive me, for raising him without teaching him the value of respect." Everyone in the room was stunned. Servants wiped their eyes. Ethan's friends shifted uncomfortably, their arrogance melting into shame. And Ethan himself, for the first time, felt the crushing weight of his actions. From that day forward, everything changed. Richard insisted that Ethan work alongside the staff for 6 months, cleaning floors, serving food, washing dishes. He wanted his son to understand the dignity of labor and the value of humility. At first, Ethan resisted, sulking and complaining, but gradually, something shifted. He began to see the exhaustion on the maids' faces, the calluses on their hands, the quiet pride in their work. He saw Maria, not as someone beneath him, but as someone stronger than he had ever been. Weeks turned into months, and slowly, Ethan's arrogance dissolved. He apologized to Maria, not once, but many times, and though it took time, she forgave him. Their relationship was never one of friendship, but of mutual respect. Ethan became a different man, one who learned that money could buy comfort, but not character. As for Maria, her life also changed. Richard Collins offered to sponsor her education, fulfilling the dream she had buried long ago. With his support, Maria enrolled in college, determined to become the teacher she always wanted to be. She still sent money home, still carried her humility like a badge of honor, but now she walked with her head held high, her torn uniform replaced by hope and opportunity. In the end, the story of a ripped uniform became the story of transformation, of a spoiled young man learning humility, of a maid finding her voice, and of a father proving that true wealth lies not in what we own, but in how we treat those around us. Backhand index pointing right. If this story touched your heart, please like this video, share it, and subscribe to Kidness Corner. Your support helps us keep bringing real, emotional stories that remind us of the power of kindness and second chances.